law enforcement no longer operates in silos. We're one team providing public safety to our community, which is the Greater Capital District from my perspective. And that's why I would ask that we all work together on this.
You're listening to the Retail Crime Intelligence Podcast by Auror, where we share actionable insights to help you reduce crime and violence in your stores.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Rob Wolf. I'm the Senior Director of Law Enforcement Solutions for Auror, and welcome to the very first law enforcement podcast, Intel Podcast. We're here today with Chief Eric Clifford from the Schenectady Police Department. Chief Clifford was born and raised in Schenectady, New York. He joined the Schenectady Police Department in 2002 and worked his way through the ranks, starting off as a patrolman, sergeant, primary public information officer, platoon commander, and then lieutenant. In 2016, he was chosen to be the 20th Police Chief of Schenectady Police Department, which was established in 1870. Chief Clifford's commitment to professional development is underscored by his graduation from this prestigious FBI National Academy and a Law Enforcement Executive Development Seminar. Throughout his tenure, he has spearheaded initiatives aimed at enhancing training methodology, fostering community trust, and integrating cutting-edge technology to bolster public safety efforts. Over the past 8 years, Chief Clifford has steered Schenectady Police Department with a steadfast dedication to excellence, leveraging his expertise to effectuate positive change and ensure the safety and well-being of the community. Welcome, Chief Clifford. Appreciate you joining us today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Schenectady and where are you at and what's going on?
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that, and thank you for having me. Schenectady, New York. It's my hometown. As you said, I was born and raised here, and we're located in upstate New York, about 144 miles north of New York City, right on the Mohawk River, and 20 minutes west of the state capitol in Albany. And just to tell you a little bit of background about Schenectady, we're settled here on the lands that were once the home of the Mohawk tribe of the Iroquois Nation, but it was settled in the Dutch in 1661. So we've been here for a long time. Union College is one of our most fascinating pieces of property here in the city. It was founded in 1795. And probably the thing that we're most popular or most known for is in 1887, Thomas Edison moved his Edison Machine Works to Schenectady. And in 1892, Schenectady became the headquarters for the General Electric Company. And they were one of our largest employers for a long time. But what's not well known about Schenectady is that it's the home of WGY, which is one of the first commercial radio stations in the United States. The station was named after its owner, General Electric, which is the G, and the city of Schenectady, which is the Y. General Electric also generated the first regular television broadcast in the United States in 1928 on a station which still exists today, WRGB. So in Schenectady, we have a population of 67,000 people. We had 92,000 at one point in 1950. GE had that much of an impact on us. We were once known as the city that lights and hauls the world. It's a dual reference to two prominent businesses in the city, both General Electric and American Locomotive. And as you said, the police department's been around since 1870. We have about 170 sworn officers, about 35 civilian staff members. We're the seventh largest police department in the state of New York, and we have three bureaus within the organization: the Patrol Bureau, the Investigative Bureau, and the Administrative Bureau. One of the things I'm most proud of that we've been able to do over the last 10 years is develop very strong ties with our county partners, our state partners, and our federal partners.
That's awesome. And obviously born and raised in Schenectady and then joining the police force, your teachers, your high school teachers must be proud of you and what you've become. So pretty amazing that you get to have your whole career where you grew up. That's got to be pretty cool to just be a part of that rich history of the city and being a part of protecting the citizens there. What's crime look like in Schenectady? Maybe give a little bit of background. What is it? What's the biggest challenge you all face? And how's that kind of changed over the years? You've obviously been there a long time. So as the population ebbs and flows, I assume crime ebbs and flows with that too. So what does that look like today for you? And how has it changed over time?
Yeah, Schenectady is not unlike any other community in this country. Growing up in Schenectady, it was a very safe community. There was a very prominent downtown. That's where everybody did their shopping. And that really changed in the 80s as suburban sprawl became more popular. Downtown became more of a ghost town. And then the 1990s that affected every community, it seems like, really took a hard hit on Schenectady. Drugs came into the area, and we started seeing families that were born and raised, had multiple generations living in Schenectady, move out of the city. Many two-family homes became rentals, and it really started to increase crime for us. When I started in 2002, crime was pretty high. We were averaging at least 10 homicides a year. On any given year, we could have a dozen homicides, violent crime that goes along with homicides, shootings, robberies, stabbings, things like that. But over the last 10 years, we've done a really good job with reducing crime. It really did peak in around 2014, but in the time, I would say 2015 is when we really started to turn that corner. I was fortunate enough that when I got promoted to chief in 2016, we were already on a good transition downward. So it's gotten much better, but it's still a city. Make no mistake about it. Being that we're only 140 miles north of New York City, we always have the ability for people to come from outside the community and bring their ill will with us, with them. So we're located on the interstate that traverses through New York State. So anybody traveling to Albany, to Rochester, Syracuse, Buffalo, they're going to drive through Schenectady. So we always have that possibility of having crime.
Absolutely. And I would imagine, like many other communities, especially on the interstate, you're seeing that organized retail crime coming out of New York, coming out of other areas, hitting your communities, and then heading back. And that's always a challenge that cities on the outskirts of major metropolitans face. You mentioned your force. How strong of a force do you have? So you have 65,000 population. And what's the police force look like in those three divisions you mentioned?
We have 167 police officers. Again, like every other police department, we're down about 10. So right now our strength is about 157. And of those 157, it's broken down primarily. The majority of them are in the patrol division, but that's also taken most of the vacancies also. We have about 40 detectives and an administrative staff of about 20. So then the remaining 100 is roughly, or 60, 107 between administrative staff. We like to be right around 85 in the patrol division, but that's down right now.
Okay. And obviously recruiting for law enforcement across the nation is a challenge. How are you addressing that? And what do you see as kind of the long-term answer to how we solve the recruiting problem in law enforcement?
Boy, if I had the answer for that, there'd be a lot of happy chiefs in this nation. It hasn't been easy. We're doing the best that we can with getting out there, spreading the message, opening our doors, having open houses where we're out to every opportunity we have to go out and recruit. At any community event, we do it. We send officers out. We engage with the community. We're speaking with high school, college graduates. We're speaking with the children in our community, getting them interested in the job, hoping that in the future they want to be a police officer. We joined an initiative called 30 by 30 a few years ago. We're making a pretty strong commitment on bringing our force of 30% women by the year 2030. And I'm really proud that whenever we hire an incoming class, if I could reach that target on an individual class basis, which probably in the last 5 classes we've brought in, I hit all but one of those 30% targets. So we're getting there. We had that dedication going. But other than that, it's really, we become more transparent, talking about some of the things that we've been doing as an organization. And I think it really has resonated with some applicants. Over the last couple interview sessions that we've had for new applicants, that's been brought up when they do their research, they see that we're involved in some really cool things going on. It's a lot of it's technology, but it's not all technology. We have some really good work going on with social work within the organization, helping people in our community that are suffering from poverty, food insecurity, substance use disorder. So it's I like to think that whatever discipline you're studying in college, if you come and tell us about it, we'll find the place for you here in Schenectady.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned some of the social aspects. I think in America, most communities have moved away from thinking that law enforcement is only about law enforcement, and you're now about serving the community overall. And obviously, some of those social programs have a direct impact on crime. But it's intriguing to me how we've put so much more on law enforcement than just the laws and implementing and securing our safety. We're now asking you all to be food banks and social workers as well. How is that impacting, the organization and the crime fight? Obviously, you're embracing it. What are some of those results you might be seeing as a result of your efforts there?
No, I guess I was just going to say that I don't know if it might be too soon for us to really be able to measure it. I think that if there's been any impact that we've had, it's been on the organization, where we're starting to shift the mindset of police officers and the culture of officers that start thinking about what causes problems where people get arrested rather than just arresting them and hoping that that will solve the problem. So whenever we deal with somebody that's stealing food from a supermarket, they have a better understanding that, well, this is why we're out there handing out food to people that don't have it, that need it. So potentially they don't go to the supermarket and steal it. And this is why we are offering our doors to be open to anybody that are using drugs to come in here and give them to us, and we'll help find them a recovery bed so that our special investigations unit doesn't have to spend 20 hours investigating them for selling drugs just to arrest them. So they start having a better understanding of the things that we're doing, the engagement that we're doing with the community, which has a intentional effect of building trust in the community. The trust has been so impacted by national events and even some local events that have happened with us, that we're building back that trust one conversation at a time. And we still have some work to do, but we're getting there.
You mentioned technology's role, and I totally agree. It's not all about the technology, but technology can certainly be a force multiplier and enable you to do more with less. How do you view technology's role in law enforcement, and how are you advancing that?
I like to think that everything that we do, I seek a technology connection to it. Even when we're talking about some of the things that we're doing with social work, I try to think of how can we use technology to make this job be done easier, done better. And we've done that with fighting crime. We've done that really successfully. I would say probably the first example I can give goes back to as early as 2004, when the police department and our county district attorney partnered up to put street cameras on an intersection of this one store that was where all the crime happened. And putting a street camera on that corner essentially solved the problem. And since then, we have now over 400 cameras throughout the city. It's a very, very strong network that we have to fight crime. And 2024, maybe 23 also, the last 3 homicides that we've had were all solved within 24 hours because of that camera network. So it's not just cameras, though. I mean, it started off with just cameras, but now we're using license plate readers. We're using, other technologies like pinging phones, and we're embracing technology to use technology to our advantage in order to solve crime. So we're solving them quicker. And the message is getting out that if you come to Schenectady and commit crimes, you're going to get caught. And I know that firsthand from having conversations with individuals that are, I shouldn't say I'm having conversations with them. It's gotten back to me that conversations that were had with some of our violence interrupters, that people will stay away from Schenectady because they know of our strong camera network and our strong use of technology. And if they're going to do something, they do it in other communities.
Yeah, you mentioned feeding those that may be going in and shoplifting for food. And obviously that's not a focus for Auror to go after the people who are stealing for basic food needs. But, we talk about needing a network to battle a network and organize retail crime at a grand scale. We also know that about 10% of the offenders are doing 90% of the losses. But we also know, let's face it, retail crime is not a sexy crime for cops to investigate. You've embraced going after retail crime and the impacts that it's had. Can you maybe talk a little bit about, what got you interested in it, and what have you learned about retail crime, and why is it important to your organization?
Sure. We don't have the strongest retail network here in Schenectady, but we have a lot of retail stores, many supermarkets. We have one large supermarket, but many small supermarkets. We have many bodegas, which are corner stores. That's commonly referred to as bodegas. And we have many gas stations. And one of the things that we've been really struggling with, it feels like my entire career, is gas drive-offs. We also have, because we're a pedestrian-friendly community, many people that walk to the supermarket or can't walk to the supermarket, so they do their shopping at corner stores. So we realize that there's many calls for service that come in for the gas drive-offs for the shoplifters at our supermarkets. And we are, so busy as a police department that we commonly don't get to them in time. And by the time we get there, loss prevention is either said we had to let them go because nobody showed up for an hour. Same thing with the gas drive-offs. By the time we get there, they're nowhere to be found. It's not even like you could check the area for them. And we started relaxing what we would do on them. And as the chief of police, I really started thinking about it and felt that it just wasn't fair to our community to allow these things to happen, because ultimately those losses get passed on to everybody that lives in our community in the form of higher prices. So a lot of people take the attitude that it's a victimless crime. It's really not, or we're not necessarily victimless, but that the crime is only affecting the owner of the stores. That's just simply not true. They're not taking the losses. They're going to pass them on to the consumers. So we started looking at how we can better handle this rise in retail crime. And of course, over the last 4 years in the post-pandemic era, it's only gotten worse, and it's gotten worse to where it's violent now, which of course has gotten our attention. So that's really what drove us to really pay a little bit more attention to it and see, where is there an intersection where addressing retail crime will also help us reduce our Part 1 crime, which is a goal of ours every year, and more specifically, violent crime, the violent component of that Part 1 crime.
That's great. And what would you recommend to retailers to talk to their local law enforcement to get involved? But what would be one key thing if you had to tell them, hey, do this better? What would that be? So, for example, is it the quality of the reporting? Is it, gathering evidence? What is that one magic element that our retail partners can do that would help improve outcomes for law enforcement?
The one thing I would say, which might be the most obvious one, but it's invest in technology, invest in cameras. The camera systems are going to be the best thing that we have. License plate readers in parking lots, they're going to be so super important in order for us to be able to capture that evidence. The quality of the evidence is always so important. Eyewitness testimony really doesn't cut it anymore. You need to have them on camera doing the deed, and you have to have the ability to identify them. So whatever technology that exists to have that. If you're talking about a retail store that have to have a membership, that's a little bit easier to identify them. But if just anybody can walk into your store, having a means to be able to identify them is super important. And if there is a theft and there's just employees that see it, or if there's loss prevention employees, gathering as much information on the individuals as possible is also so important. Just like any crime, being a good witness is super important.
And then maybe let's turn that around. So what would you tell other chiefs across the country that are potentially looking at retail crime or not? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I would say that it's a focus that has to be done. It's a component of Part 1 crime. And Part 1 crime is something that we're all looking to reduce at the statewide level. And by allowing it to go unaccounted for, without having an investigation done, without holding the people accountable, they're just playing into the whole organized part of this. One of the things that really focused my attention on it, and I already mentioned that we don't have retail stores in the city, but what we have are the corner stores. So we know that to the north of us and to the south of us, many people are going there, and there's a lot of retail crime occurring. And we know that those stolen goods are coming to the city in Schenectady, and they're being fenced at these bodegas who are then reselling them. Well, those bodegas, many of them that we know are buying these fenced goods, happen to be hotspots of ours. So in addition to buying stolen goods, there's individuals hanging out there selling drugs. And whenever you have that atmosphere, you're very likely to have drive-by shootings, robberies, assaults. So that's the reason why I would encourage other chiefs to really put a focus on this, because if you're only dealing with the theft end of it, by you addressing that is going to help us deal with the violent crime end of it. And the violent crime isn't just in the cities anymore. It's starting to make its way to the suburbs, towns, and villages. And one of the reasons why I mentioned that we have strong partnerships countywide, statewide, federally is that law enforcement no longer operates in silos. We're one team providing public safety to our community, which is the greater Capital District from my perspective. And that's why I would ask, that we all work together on this.
And you've certainly done a phenomenal job of gathering the chiefs in the capital region to come together and create a force around organized retail crime. You mentioned the surrounding communities are where the major retail locations are, but yet you still are kind of at the epicenter of retail crime because they're bringing back the goods and fencing them in your city. How did you go about connecting all the chiefs together? And tell us a little bit more about that if you can.
Sure. I was fortunate to have a relationship with our county sheriff from a while back. I coached his son in baseball, and we've been friends for a long time. Went to the same high school together, even though he was a couple of years ahead of me. So I've known him for years. When I became the chief, we continued that strong relationship, and it only got stronger. And I just saw that as an entryway to inviting all the other chiefs to collaborate on a regular basis. And I knew almost every one of them. From in one way or another, because we all kind of rose up through the ranks together individually. And so we just started meeting quarterly. We invited in our director of our Unified Communications Center into the meeting. And it's truly just a general meeting for us to assess the county and where we're at, go talk through some issues, but also talk through some strategies, what we can share. One of the big topics that's come about as a result of this is we train regularly together now, especially things that are so important, like active shooter scenarios. We have established an active shooter training module that we do every year that started off just within the county, and now it's become more of a regional event where any of the police department that comes in that wants to join on it and see it. It's a weekend event at a high school, and we move them every time to different high schools so that the teams that are doing the training can get experience in the different schools. So those are some of the things that came about from this county meeting. And of course, whenever we have emerging technology that we're excited about, we bring it to each other and we help each other. It's no more of hiding what you're doing so that you can raise your hand and say, I was first. We don't care about that. All we care about is reducing crime and making this community so great that people want to come here and live.
Indeed. What a great example you're leading. Thank you. Around that network, and we'll say that you have agreed, and Schenectady PD have agreed to be a lighthouse customer for Auror for law enforcement and the future solutions we're building. And I can't wait to get into this and learn more from you and take your ideas and bring them into our platform. You've also expanded that out to the network. So what does that look like in certain terms of geography and number of agencies that you hope to be involved in the organized retail crime network that we'll be building?
Just here in Schenectady, our city county is shaped like a triangle, and so is the city. So my initial plan is going to be to have license plate readers that are installed by the city through Auror on every major artery in the city. So we know who's coming and going in our fight to reduce crime. And then by partnering with Auror and the retailers that cooperate, we're hoping that we could use that network to just expand it regionally. So countywide, if I could go north, I should say 2 towns north of me, and then if I go south to this town south of me, where there's a Walmart, there's the Lowe's, there's the Home Depots, there's almost every major retailer that from any town USA. If we could start partnering with as many that would have us with sharing this information, we could help them and they could help us. It becomes a true partnership with, we're going to hold accountable the people that are stealing property, stealing goods from, maybe even services. And at the same time, we're going to get a better idea of who's committing these crimes, start putting together the network of people who they're connected with. And it's going to help us to maybe solve some of the bigger crimes, some of the more violent crimes, and just be prepared for the next time something big happens, that having that intelligence database of known criminals. You commit a crime, you commit a crime. It doesn't matter whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor or even a violation. You're breaking the law. Police department's going to know who you are. And that's the whole point of making it a deterrent, is that once you commit a crime, we know who you are. Because if you do it again, we're going to find you.
That's great. What else would you like to say to our retail partners and to the law enforcement agencies that may be listening in on the podcast today? Anything to close up our discussion?
I think that the example that I set with the county coming together, working together to reduce crime, with our relationships that we formed with the state police and the federal agencies, there's too many to name, but the FBI is the popular one. By forming these partnerships, which was never a popular idea, but it's becoming more and more popular, we've been able to significantly reduce crime in Schenectady. And if sharing information, if you're a retail organization and you're looking to reduce organized retail crime, and you're willing to share that information with law enforcement, we'd love to partner with you and be able to share that intelligence so that your losses are reduced, and that we can also reduce crime. And we can hopefully stem off a lot of this inflation that's really driving a lot of people into the poverty level, which hasn't gone unnoticed. Schenectady, is not a rich community, and a lot of the people that live here, they're suffering because the small budgets that they have to buy goods and services been buying less lately. So we want to be able to, partner with as many retailers as we can to help reduce this that we can.
That's great. Chief, I'd like to thank you and all the men and women of Schenectady PD that keep your community safe. Thank you for doing what you do. Really looking forward to our partnership and learning from your organization and also being a small part of helping the Schenectady community. And I'd like to thank you today for your participation and joining us on the podcast.
Likewise, and thank you very much. We look forward to being a partner with Auror.
Thank you for listening to the Retail Crime Intelligence Podcast by Auror. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcast app.